Doctor Who has been cancelled. And yes, this kind of happened a while ago. I think the BBC officially put the announcement on June 10th, and as I'm recording it, it's in the later part of July. I know. I guess I'll never be a right on the button high speed news reporter, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about Doctor Who. Doctor Who has been something that I've watched a lot growing up. My dad was a big fan of it. I didn't necessarily grow up from a younger age watching it because while we did have TV, it was a while before we had BBC America, and for a while that was, I think, the only reliable way to get the New Who in the United States. But I remember when I was very young, the library had a series of the Fifth Doctor, and I remember watching that. And then, of course, once we got BBC America on our dish, we started watching it. Dad started watching it. Mostly it was after my bedtime, but when they had the marathons, we would watch a couple of episodes and so. And then later, when they started coming out with the DVDs and stuff, he bought them, and then we were watching them more consistently. So, for watching wise, Doctor Who has been a decent part of my childhood. And then on top of that, I don't know if you can see it, but my dad is a little bit of a book collector. I'm in my parents' room because my room's a little messy after coming back from college. But this entire shelf here, behind, and this shelf, behind, and this shelf, behind the double stack books are all Doctor Who. And there's Doctor Who stuff up here. If you can tell, this Dalek was crocheted by my sister, and this TARDIS was as well. So you can kind of get a sense that the children got older, Doctor Who became a little bit more of a thing. Yeah, and I will say when I heard the news, I wasn't of Doctor Who being canceled. I wasn't as upset. I, in my opinion, I never watched the Disney stuff, but looking at it, I didn't exactly get the same excitement or feeling as I did with the other Doctor Who's. And I think a lot of people shared that sentiment. But I was also not necessarily disappointed because it's not like Doctor Who is gone forever. All the previous media exists, and there's a lot of stuff to go through. Um, Recently, I picked up another one of my dad's, um, Doctor Who books, and this is the stuff I kind of grew up reading. I don't think I've read all of them, but these are the novelization of the old Who's, which were for a while a little bit easier to acquire than the actual TV shows because they weren't printing them on DVDs. And I will say it's pretty good. This one is by Terrence Dicks. He was one of the script editors, and this is a novelization of The Planet of the Spiders, which is the last adventure of the third Doctor before he regenerates. A pretty good romp and fun to read. I'm going to put it back where it belongs now, because I've had it for probably too long. There we go. But yeah, if you're a big fan of like the new Who stuff, there's a lot of media. There you have these old Who's, all the novelizations, and then they did like these black missing adventures. They printed these, I think, close to the time when Doctor Who was originally canceled, and I'll talk about that for a second. Yeah, copyright 1995. Yeah, they printed these when Doctor Who was originally canceled. I think it was in the 80s. And then when Doctor Who was rebooted, they made more novelizations. Which are also, here's some nice hardcovers. They're also pretty good reads. I haven't read all of them, but I've read a lot of them. And then on top of that, there's comics. There's audio dramas. I haven't really done either of those, but I know they exist. And there's all the episodes of the old and the new Who coming out on DVD. I'll put a video of my dad's growing collection. He's getting a lot of the Doctors, and even though I'm away at college, he and my siblings are watching some of those. And that's really good thing if you're a really big fan of Doctor Who. That's something you can read and watch to scratch the itch while you're waiting for Doctor Who to come back. And I say that because I am well 100% certain that Doctor Who is going to come back. All is not lost with Doctor Who after this cancellation because it happened before. In the 80s, I think, Doctor Who's falling on hard times and not as many people were watching it, and BBC ended up canceling it. And it wasn't until the early 2000s that they rebooted it into the new Who, which we had, and that ran for 20 years, which I think is a pretty good run for a TV show. And I believe in the BBC announcement, they say um, they're putting out to competitive tender, which when I looked it up seems to say they're open for production companies making bids or pilots for new TV shows, and I think that's great. There's only a limited amount of stories, I think, that a group of creatives or even a generation of people can write using a character. And I think, especially for series that we want to endure, it's good for us to expect years and even multiple years where the media stories lie fallow and wait for new ideas to come to light. I think C.S. Lewis, I don't remember where, but he talks about different generations having cultural blind spots of things they don't necessarily notice that other generations are noticed, and that's a reason to read old books. That because we in the 21st century might really be focused on these ideas, and we might not think about these other ideas. And so, if we read old literature and books because they thought about those ideas, they'll be able to remind us of what our current cultural blind spots are. And each generation has their own focus on just ideas that, depending on the context of history and society and stuff, they're grappling with. And we grapple with that in the stories. And in my mind, after a certain creative group kind of exhausts the stories that you can have to tell and interpret from the core idea of, like, the Doctor, I'd say he's a pretty timeless character where people have taken stabs at him with different angles and using different regenerations of the Doctor to see this core idea in a bunch of different angles. And I think we have a lot to look forward to, because in another 20, 30, 40 years, when the next generations of storytellers go and new up and coming stars, like, you know what? I remember watching BBC as a little kid. Let's see if I can get the property and pay homage to it and keep the core ideas, but look at it from a different perspective. And with that different perspective that comes from different generations and things to focus on, we'll have new and exciting stories that explore ideas and concepts from a different angle. And I think that's going to be really exciting. Well, thank you for watching this video, and I hope that if you are a Doctor Who fan, you're just as excited as me for what is coming, could be, of what is due to come in the future, and also that you don't lose your love of the character in the meantime, and will keep going back to all the old treasures and stuff and all the different mediums that aren't always as widely publicized. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye.